Hey guys, thanks for joining Learn to Play. My name is Lance, and today we're going to take a look at TMG's brand new game, Bomb Squad. So this is a 2 to 6 player game that takes roughly half an hour to play. It's fully cooperative, so the players are working together as various members of a Bomb Squad team. In it, they're giving each other intel about the cards that are in their hands to help them program the robots that they're sending into the building to rescue hostages and to deactivate the bombs. Now, they have to do this in a certain amount of time, as in each game you will set a timer, and as that timer reaches 0, the squad has to deactivate the bomb before that happens, otherwise the game is over. So let's head to the table and I'll teach you how to play. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and take a look at setup real quick. So the first thing you're going to do is grab your mission briefings book, and you're going to go through it and you're going to select a mission that you'd like to play. Once you've made that selection, then you're going to also choose whether you want to play standard or epic. And then once you have that, then you're going to go ahead and choose one of the robots that you'd like to play for this game. There's 4 different ones to choose from, one on the back, and then there's 2 that you can customize. So we're just going to go with the basic one. Once you've made your selection, then you're going to go ahead and lay out the mission that you would like to play. So we're going to go ahead and do that, and we'll be right back. Alright, now that we have the board set up, the next thing we're going to go ahead and do is mark our starting battery levels. So we have our reserve battery at 8 and our main battery at 12. We also set the timer, which I'm not going to show in this video, but you have to have a timer. TMG said that they're going to have one online that you can download as an app, or you can just get any type of app that'll count down for you. And according to the mission you're playing, which with Alpha, we set the timer for 8 minutes for the first bomb, so we have 8 minutes to deactivate the first bomb. Alright, so at this point, if you're playing a non-training mission, then you're going to go ahead and grab the white background Bomb Squad cards that are the roll cards, and go ahead and shuffle those up and deal out 1 to each player. These cards will be the player's rolls and will supersede any rolls that are rules that are part of the game. Once that's done, then you will determine the starting player, and then you're going to go ahead and shuffle and deal out the instruction cards, which are the other cards that you have in the box, based on the number of players that they're playing. As you can see on this chart, those cards are not looked at by the players that have them. The player that has the cards will go ahead and fan them out and present them to the other players without looking at them. If that player accidentally looks at their own cards, then go ahead and discard those cards and redraw back up to your hand size. And then when all players are ready, then you can go ahead and start the mission by starting the timer. Alright, so I'd like to go over the instruction cards real quick. So as you can see, there are 3 different colors: red, yellow, and blue. And then we have 4 different types of cards in total. You have movement cards, you have open door cards, rescue hostage cards, and disarm bomb cards. All those cards are going to be in all 3 of the different colors. The only thing that will stay the same is on the movement cards. All your red moves are 1 space, all your yellow moves are 2 spaces, and all your blue moves are 3 spaces. Now with these cards, when you're performing them and using them, you can only use the card that's corresponding to the color on the map that you're trying to use. So for example, if you're trying to open up a red door, then you have to have a red door card to use it, and the same goes with the hostage and the disarm. Alright, so play will begin with the first player, and will move clockwise from player to player. During a player's turn, they must perform 1 action out of the 4 choices that they have, which are to give intel, recharge the battery, program an instruction card, or activate the robot. So let's go ahead and take a closer look at all 4 of those actions that players can perform. Alright, so the first action we're going to go ahead and look at is giving intel. So during a player's turn, they can choose to give another player intel about that player's hand. When they do this, they're going to choose 1 of 2 attributes to give the player intel about. The first one is color, so we can tell the player about 1 color that is in their hand, whether it be red, yellow, or blue. When we do, then we would indicate all the cards of that type that hold that color. So if this is the other player's hand, we can say to that player, well, these are 2 red cards that are in your hand. and you are allowed to point to the cards. Now when doing this, you may not lie about the cards, and you may not favor one card over another. Now the other attribute that you can give intel on is the card type, whether it is a move card, disarm, rescue, or open door card. Now yet again in this example, if we said to the player, well, you have 3 move cards, then we can do that. Now remember, you can only do this with one of the attribute types and only one of the options within that attribute. Alright, so the next action we're going to cover is discarding a card to recharge the battery. So during a player's turn, they can choose and say out loud that they are discarding a card to try to recharge the battery. When they do that, they will select one card, hold it out in front of them, and say 1 or 2 attributes about that card, one being the color or the action. Once they do, then they'll flip it over. So let's say that this is a red move. Alright, so we've gotten that correct on both attributes, so we can up the battery by 2 points. If we would have only said that it was a red card, then we would have upped the battery by 1 if we were correct. Now if this turned out to be a red door, and we had said it was a red move, then we would receive no points because we got one of the attributes that we stated wrong. Now keep in mind that you can only charge the battery, the main battery, up to its max, and you can never recharge the reserve battery. Now once that is done, then we would draw a new card and add it to our hands to bring it back up to its maximum hand size, and then our turn is over. Alright, so the next action we're going to look at is to program an instruction card. So during a player's turn, if they choose to do that, they would take one of the cards from their hand that they feel they know about and place it in the leftmost programming slot across the board, and then as those slots fill up, if it's the last slot to be filled with a card, then the robot would immediately be activated. If not, then the player would go ahead and draw a new card and add it to their hand. At that point, their turn is over. Alright, so the next option we're going to look at is activating the robot, which can happen in one of 2 ways. Either the player can choose that as an option during their turn, or if all of the program slots have been filled up with instruction cards, then the robot is automatically activated by the player that placed the last card in the 7th spot. Once that is done, then all the cards will get flipped over. Alright, so now that all of our cards have been flipped over, the operator of the robot can choose to rearrange those cards in any way that they choose, so that the robot will follow those cards in sequence from the leftmost card all the way through to the rightmost card, doing those actions in turn. Now before we move on to rearranging them, I'd like to cover a couple of rules about the robot and how the robot works. Alright, so the first thing we're going to look at is the robot's movement. The robot can never move diagonally, so all of its movement is going to be done orthogonally. When a robot moves, it has to move the maximum number of spaces that are on the card, and it has to do this in a straight line. So for example, if we look at the Move 2 card, the robot has to move 2 spaces in one direction, so it can't move up 1 and over 1, for example. So the next thing, a robot can never cross any of the solid black lines that are on the field, and it can never cross any of the tokens that are on the field as well. For interacting with the tokens, the robot has to be in one of the 4 spaces that are adjacent to it. It cannot be in one of the diagonal spaces to interact with that token. And in order for a robot to open a door of a particular color, it has to have at least rescued 1 hostage of that color before it can open that door. Now, if at any point a robot has to perform an action and it cannot perform that action in its fullest extent, then that action will have failed and the robot will have caused an error. When an error is caused, the robot will lose 2 battery points for each error that is caused. And now we're ready to move back into the cards. Alright, so at this point we're ready to rearrange the cards so that the robot can be operated. So let's go ahead and move this one over here. And as we can see, we're probably not going to get to the door, so since we have 5 or less cards, we can go ahead and discard this so it doesn't cause an error. And now that we're satisfied with the order that we have the cards in, we're going to go ahead and pay the main battery cost based on the last card that's in the program slot, so we're going to decrease our battery by 7 points, which will bring us down to 5. And then we can go ahead and operate the robot by following the sequence. So we're going to move them up 2 spaces. Then we're going to move them over 1 space to put them adjacent to the hostage. Then we're going to go ahead and rescue the hostage. And then we're going to go ahead and move them over 1 more space to line them up with the bomb. And then at this point we can't do anything else, so these cards will be discarded in the order that they were played into the discard pile, face up. And then we're ready to move on to the next player's turn. Alright, so I'd like to go over the robot's battery real quick. So each robot has the main battery and reserve battery. The robot's main battery may never be charged above its maximum, and when the robot's main battery goes below 1, then you will start using the robot's reserve battery. The robot's reserve battery may never be recharged, and for every cell that the reserve battery is used will count against the players and their final score. If the reserve battery ever reaches 0, then the game is over immediately and the players have failed. Alright, so there are 3 conditions that will end the game. The first is if the robot's batteries, both main and reserved, reach 0. The second is if the timer runs out and the bomb will explode and destroy everybody. And the third is if the robot has reached and disabled the last bomb. So the first thing we're going to do is count up, and we get points for every hostage we've rescued and every bomb that we've disarmed based on their color. So for every yellow bomb or hostage we get 2 points apiece, and for every red we get 4 points. And if we would have rescued any blue or disarmed any blue bombs, those would have been worth 6. So for this example we have 4 points, 8 points, 10 points, 12 points. From there, then we would receive 5 points for disarming all the bombs in the mission, which we did. So that puts us up to 17 points. We would receive 1 point for each hostage that's remaining on the board, but we have rescued all the hostages, so we don't get any points there. And then we receive -1 point for every reserve battery cell used. So we used 2, so we'll lose 2 points there, which brings us to 15. And then in the top secret book, then we would open those up, and based on the mission we're playing, we would check our score. So for 15 points we would receive 4 stars out of a total possible of 5.